Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. Fortunately for all of us, we cannot see Michael Reed on videos because he is doing something that we shouldn't be recording while he's doing. But just real quick, the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And we are rejoined from the Washington Post, Mr. Sam Fortier. How are you doing on this beautiful summer evening, sir?
I'm doing all right. Now I got to know what Mike, what are you doing?
I'm hunting a bear in Alaska.
You're so stupid, man. No. Sam, let's get this back on track. All right, Reed's already derailed this thing. Mike Florio has put out there that the Jets are basically going to be handed enforced hard knocks onto them. Have you heard anything of the sort? Because Ron Rivera and company, this team hasn't come out publicly and said they don't want hard knocks, but Rivera has said in the past that he wouldn't want to do it again. So do you think that is a foregone conclusion it's going to New York?
I mean, I have no insight on whether the Jets are getting hard knocks or not. So if Florio says that, I guess that's the best information that we have to go on. I mean, like you said, the Panthers did the Amazon All Access show when Ron was there. I want to say in 2018. Obviously, what a football coach thing to say. We don't love it. I mean, of course it's going to be a distraction. Of course you're going to have cameras in your building. Like, that's not what you want. I mean, the NFL still does the in-season hard knocks, so it's possible that they are up for that. But in terms of who's going to do the training camp hard knocks that we know from the past, yeah, I mean, it sounds like from what Florio said, it's the Jets.
Reed?
Sam,
the bear got him, which is great news.
His internet's going out right now, Hall, so I'll let you go.
You good, Reed? You good?
Oh,
yeah,
can you hear me now?
Go, Hall.
Natural.
All right, so this offense and coming up in training camp and into the season as well. Obviously, they have Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson. Those two guys are both kind of like chess pieces. You can kind of move all over the field. You can do some gadget stuff with both of those guys. Which guy do you think is going to have a bigger impact on the offense this season?
I mean, that's probably going to depend on week to week, right? Because we know that Eric Bieniemy, used minicamp as sort of a lab to say, hey, how can these guys be used? What's the best position to put them in? Do I line AG up in the slot or out wide or, in the backfield? What sort of flexibility do I have? And I think both of those guys are the two gadget guys you can have in this offense. So, I was having this discussion with Logan Paulson, and he was talking, and Craig Hoffman, and they were saying on their podcast they had, a discussion about, which one will be the gadget guy. I think that that's a false equivalency. They could both be it, against the right team. So I don't think you're going to see as many, downhill between the tackles runs that Curtis Samuel had last year, which Scott Turner obviously loved, famously against the Giants in that game that they lost at home. But I think that you could still use both those guys both ways. And, it's funny, I wrote about this, how much EB moves guys around. And he used Travis Kelce pretty much in the inline slot and out wide, at incredible amounts. And that's not reflective of a philosophical position about the tight end. It's hey, this is one of my best guys, and I'm going to move him around to get him good matchups. So I think you'll see that this season as well.
Absolutely. Reed, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Sam, do you expect any more moves to be made before training camp begins?
No significant ones. I mean, there's obviously roster reshuffling. There's hey, this guy comes available, but in terms of adding significant guys outside of the draft and free agency, 2021 remains the outlier with adding Charles Leno and Bobby McCain after the draft, right? We have not seen them bring in a high caliber guy, a starter, via trade via trade or free agency or whatever it is, unless I'm forgetting someone, which I don't think I am, after the draft ends in April and between the start of camp.
Absolutely. My next question for you, sir. Let's talk about I want to talk about some rumors because Michael Lombardi was on with Pat McAfee earlier, and he said Dalvin Cook still has yet to be signed, and he would say Washington is a team that should be invested in Dalvin Cook and bringing him here. Have you heard any of the sort? Because there were also rumblings of Kareem Hunt. This is almost reminiscent of the week before the draft, where you just get a bunch of smoke screens getting thrown out there. Have you heard anything the sort of them being invested in adding a running back like this?
I think that Dalvin Cook and Kareem Hunt are two different situations. Like Kareem Hunt has a relationship
Right.
with Eric Bieniemy from the past that sort of makes more sense to me. Dalvin Cook, particularly like with how strongly Randy Jordan feels about his running back room. Randy Jordan feels like this is maybe his best running back room he's had, definitely under Ron Rivera. Whenever you talk about Adrian Peterson, I think it's going to be hard for a guy to say like his room is better and AP's not in it. But
Right.
I mean, like Randy Jordan loves his room, and I can't imagine that he's banging on the table to get a guy like Dalvin Cook in here, especially, with what they feel they have in B-Rob and AG and Rodriguez now. So I'd be surprised if they brought in Dalvin Cook. I'd be really surprised if they brought in Dalvin Cook. Kareem Hunt is a different situation. But again, I don't think that barring a training camp injury or, someone looks terrible or reports out of shape, like I don't think they're adding Kareem Hunt because they feel really strongly about what they have. And that goes down to Jonathan Williams as well. Like
Right.
Jay Will played pretty well in his limited snaps last year. I think that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run downhill. He's a really versatile back, even though he doesn't probably get the recognition that I think he should get.
Hall?
I thought Reed was going to go. Jamin Davis is a guy that's going into his third season, and he's had his ups and his downs, like from week one of his rookie year up till now. I think a lot of people are kind of expecting, and Jack Del Rio himself, I think, is expecting him to kind of take that jump and become the guy that they thought he would be when they drafted him. What are some things that he needs to do that you think he can do this season to kind of become that guy?
Yeah, we didn't see him on the field a ton in minicamp because of the knee thing that he got cleaned up. So it's hard to tell where he's at in evaluating the progress. But I think that he just needs to continue progressing at what he did last year. Like last year, the thing that really I think was remarkable was his eye discipline and his play recognition, right? Like you could just see it. Like he was firing off the ball in a way that he just wasn't as a rookie. And I think that that's going to be the thing where now it's like you're not even reading and reacting. You're now anticipating. And I go back to the 4th and 1 goal line stop against Indianapolis, where he dragged Jonathan Taylor back, which I think really just highlighted how strong he is. And if his brain can continue to unlock his body, I think that you're going to see a really strong linebacking play from this unit. Because I got to say, I was pretty skeptical on Cody Barton, a 1-year breakout in Seattle coming here. But I thought at his size, he moves pretty well. And I think that, he's not a guy like Cole Holcomb where you got to bulk him up. So I think that he might be able to move a little bit more agile. I'm doing what I hate to do, which is project off of shorts and shells workouts in May, but I liked what I saw.
It's June, Sam. It's okay.
Yeah. It's okay. Sam, everybody wants to talk about Emmanuel Forbes, and rightfully so. The dude has been fairly impressive, at least so far in shorts. But who is another rookie's kind of flying under the radar that you think could make some noise this season?
Well, I mean, I feel like people understand Chris Rodriguez and kind of what I think his role will be as a downhill guy, kind of taking some of the bruising inside touches away from Antonio Gibson. I don't think either of the edge guys are going to be huge contributors just because there's such a logjam there. I think they're important pieces, but and I think KJ Henry particularly could do well in some of those fire zone stuff where he's dropping because I think they did it pretty well at Clemson. The two offensive linemen I don't think are guaranteed starters, Stromberg and Daniels, though I think Daniels could compete at guard. But I would say it's easy to say outside of Forbes who's going to be the impact guy, the second round pick. But if you're betting on who's going to have an impact, I think it's Quan Martin. Illinois, if you go back and look at it, they played an obscene amount of cover one last year. They just went 5 down linemen in their penny front and they played a ton of cover one. And Quan Martin just went back and forth between the nickel and the single high safety. And when you bring that type of versatility in, that's going to fit exactly what Jack Del Rio wants to do, particularly against run first teams. Last year you saw the Colts and the Falcons, and the Eagles to some extent, they just played the 5 down linemen, which they call their Cinco package. And they let those guys go to work on the back end. So if you could tighten up that back end with Forbes and with Quan Martin, whoever it is, emerges in that Buffalo nickel role, but whether it's him, Percy Butler, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I'm using a ton of football jargon right now. But
We're doing great, Sam.
if Quan Martin steps up and can be a legit guy in that rotation, and Percy Butler, and others, I'm sure, and Cam Curl, like those guys are going to make him earn that playing time. But if he can, I think he's going to be a baller.
Absolutely. Now to wrap this up, Sam, I only have a couple more questions for you. With as much insight, with as much detail as you possibly can you update us on the team sale?
The team sale. I mean, I feel like we've been hyping up every procedural step so far, just because it's one step closer. But basically, what we know from my colleagues Nikki and Mark, who've done a great job reporting on the sale process, they are going to meet. The owners are calling a special session on July 20th, and they're going to get together, and they're expected to approve the sale process finally. Dot the I's, cross the T's. It's over. It's done. Josh Harris and Mitch Rales are officially in. So, we don't know exactly where that'll be. For the Broncos sale, I believe it was Minneapolis, and I think Mark and Nikki reported that there's been discussions about having it in Minneapolis again. But that is everything that we know. And when that's done, Josh Harris in, Dan Snyder out, it's official.
That being said, when Harris comes over, do you expect big changes to the front office?
I mean, that's a really difficult question because July 20th is literally 6 days before the team is going to start training camp.
Right.
And you got to wonder, at least on the football side, I don't expect any major shakeups on the coaching staff and the front office. If we're talking business staff, how long, if they think about making a change at team president, is Jason Wright going to stay? And if so, for how long? I think those things are much more up in the air because, obviously it's close to the season. You don't want to make major shakeups, but it's easier I think, to hit the ground running with a new business chief in July than it is with a football staff. So, but again, if they say, we think Jason Wright is either doing a solid job or we want to replace Jason, but, we want to do it at a later time to keep continuity, I think they could totally do that as well. So, Josh Harris, I think he'll have a lot of options, a lot of flexibility when he comes in here. And I would not be surprised if his first thing is just trying to re-engage the fan base and saying, hey, come out this season. It's a new era. It's a new day. It's going to be a process, but we really mean it this time. We're going to do things the right way.
That's music to our ears. And I know that Antonio Gibson came on his Snapchat or Instagram saying he expects a big turnout week 1. And we're really hoping for that. Since it's June, it's in the middle, right before training camp. We're trying to bleed this time out as much as possible, Sam. So I have a hypothetical for you. Who has the highest snap count this season? Ricky Stromberg, Chris Rodriguez, or KJ Henry?
That's a really interesting question. I think the only guy capable, and I hate to predict this, but if I had to make a wager in Vegas on this question tomorrow, I would say Stromberg, and I think that's because Stromberg has the clearest path to being a starter, and that's if Nick Gates gets hurt. I know Tyler Larson's there, but I expect Ricky Stromberg to be the backup center on this team come week 1. And so, if Nick Gates got hurt, for a stretch or whatever, I think he would be the starter, and I think that would put him over the threshold. Whereas Rodriguez and Henry, at most, they're going to be role players this year, and obviously with rookies, it's always tough. But you have 4 or 5 defensive ends ahead of Henry. You have at least 2 running backs ahead of Rodriguez. So I'd probably say Stromberg.
Oh, I like it. That's what I would have gone with. Last one. Who has more snaps at the end of the season? Sadiq Charles, Jeremy Reeves, or Fedarian Mathis?
Well, I feel like under the same logic, you got to say Sadiq has the inside track right now because he's projected as a starter. He's getting the first crack to win the left guard job. He's going into a contract year. They want him to be good. He wants to be good. He's super athletic. He does a lot of the things that the offensive line missed last year in terms of athleticism. So you got to say him. Fedarian Mathis as a key rotation defensive tackle, you're going to be behind, 2 workhorses who played 70+% of the snaps last year on the interior. You also are competing with John Ridgway, who I think was a lot better than they expected. Who's the third guy?
The third guy was Jeremy Reeves.
Yeah, Jeremy Reeves. If you're counting special team snaps, I think I think he's a solid candidate. But I would expect not to see him hardly at all at safety. And I think that he's a, don't get me wrong, he's a great player, all pro player on special teams. But when you're talking about snap counts and just the ones that are available, you got to go with offense or defense.
I got you. And then last time I had you on here, I asked you about the kicker, so I have to have one more for you, and this is going to be special teams. Do you think that the kickoff rule change for this season alone is going to change the personnel for the returners?
I don't know. I'm actually very curious to hear about that as well. I know that Nate Katzer talked about it during his position coach availability, which unfortunately I was at a different table, I think talking to Randy Jordan. But I'm fascinated to see like what these new rules are going to do, especially because Washington has not gotten a lot out of its return game the last couple years. They've had the worst average. They had in the NFL last season the worst average starting field position, which when you had the offense that they had is certainly not ideal. So I mean, it's possible Jahan and Antonio took reps back there in camp, in mini camp. I think that it's a position they need more out of. So what are they going to do? I'm fascinated.
Absolutely. I know Hall, that's music to his ears. He's been screaming about that for a very long time. Sam, I can't thank you enough, as always, sir. Everyone keep your eyes peeled for Sam. Hopefully going to be coming out with something new here soon, and we're all excited for it. Sam, I can't thank you enough for your time, as always.
Wait, Sam.
What's up, Reed?
Sam, what do you think about the submarine?
I made a joke before we started taping that I wore this poker hat because whenever Reed makes a joke, I got to keep a poker face on to keep my job. So with that, I'm going to sign off and thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Sam. Have a great night, brother.
All right, have a good one.
We appreciate you, man. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Sam Fortier. We did have that joke beforehand. It was very funny, I will say. The Black Bear was a good touch, Reed. Good job, sir.
I still haven't called it. He's being very sleuthful and waiting for him.
Hey, Hall, I wanted to get your opinion because I did see the news today, Michael Lombardi being on Pat McAfee talking about Dalvin Cook to D.C. We've talked about Kareem Hunt as well. But does that Dalvin Cook fit make any sense to you?
No, not really to me. I mean, obviously, I think Dalvin Cook he would be probably an upgrade to the running back room. Obviously, he's an all-pro caliber player, but like Sam's been talking about, and like I think a lot of obviously the coaching staff and a lot of the fan base looks at this running back room, and yes, you can look at last year the averages with Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, the yards per attempt and whatnot were kind of low, the yards per game were low, but I think with the revamped offensive line, a little bit of better offensive line play, maybe the rushing attempts go up, and then also you got to think about with the quarterback play and how kind of low level it was. A lot of teams are kind of stacking the box and playing like man coverage on the outsides or kind of doubling Terry and letting the other guys do their own thing because they weren't really scared of the downfield deep threat. But all in all, I just think, and I even tweeted this out, I think that obviously, like I said, it would be a fit because he's an upgrade, but I don't think it's a fit because we like what we have here. But it just tells me that I said this on Twitter. Either I guess you could say like we overhype the talent that we have here because it's like, oh no, like why would you want Dalvin Cook? Like, our running back room is good. Or B, it just says that the national media looks at the talent that we see as good players and like talented players, looks at them as like average or just not, what we see them as. And again, some of that could be they just look at the numbers and just assume like, okay, I look at the numbers are not really good. So all in all, I don't think it's a good pick. Michael Lombardi, I don't know. For some reason, every time a player comes up for free agency, he just wants to push him on to Washington. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's a good fit. I love Dalvin Cook, one of my top fantasy players. I try to get him every year in fantasy, but I don't think he'd be a fit here.
Yeah, now that's the funny part there, Hall, is Lombardi always pushes on to Washington. I think Lombardi and company know very well the kind of production that this news can be used in pummeling into Washington during these lulls, because we are the most excited, the most clicky fan base in the NFL and in the world when it comes to stuff like this. It's easy money. Just, put out a rumor. Look, with Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, put the rumor out there. It's going to hit the streets, and look at us. We're sitting here talking about it. But PFF, Reed, PFF had ranked Nick Gates the 27th center heading into the season for the Commanders. So my question to you, Reed, before we get into story time and our fan questions, What's your confidence level with Nick Gates at center?
I still feel pretty good about Nick Gates. I mean, he really has. I mean, I know that he's shown a lot in terms of like leadership and being an inspiration, but he really hasn't shown as much on the field. So I kind of like him being underrated. It's typical for that to happen with Commanders players, especially free agents that we bring in, and that's okay. You know, nobody expected a lot of these guys that we've brought in the past to produce, and they end up producing. I think Nick Gates will be beyond solid for us. I have a lot of faith in him, and really just because he seems like a sick dude. He seems tight. He seems like a chill guy. Those are the kind of guys that you want to bank on. So I feel all right with him. I do think, obviously, you would like him to be higher, but that makes sense to me. I mean, I don't think that they're really hating in that aspect. I think that that's just kind of where he would rank right now because he hasn't started as much as he would like some of these other centers in the NFL.
Yeah. My confidence level, I think, is like at about a 5 to be a cop-out answer with this just because his injury history, the injury history with center here, but I am confident in the center room, if that makes sense. Just because, you know, before we were trying to go off the street to find help here, and now we kind of have a really solidified center group that you feel good heading into the season. So it's not really my confidence with Nick Gates, so to speak, but it's more so in the group and in the room of what they have. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, I'm probably the same. I'm like 5, maybe I'll even maybe say a 6, only for the simple fact of if you look at Ron Rivera and the Martys, like their free agency stuff since they got here, so their acquisitions and free agency, whenever they go for like not like the lower tier guys, but like not the like the middle tier or like not the big flashy well-known players, like obviously whenever they went after Logan Thomas, I was one of the guys I was like, I think they can do better. Y'all were like, no, I think he's going to be straight. Obviously, it turned out pretty well until the injuries started piling up, and we'll see how he does this year. And then you look at a guy like William Jackson, who was like, or even Curtis Samuel, who they were like the flashy, the big name guys, like the well-known players that were supposed to come in and produce. And obviously William Jackson was a big bust, and Curtis Samuel he's been okay. He's been injured. Obviously the injury kind of skews everything else, but you look at a guy like Nick Gates, who didn't get big money. He wasn't like a big flashy name on the market like that. And you look at a guy like Wiley, who honestly, if he didn't play for the Chiefs and they didn't win the Super Bowl, probably I don't think anybody would know who Wiley is either. You know what I'm saying?
You're right about that.
I think that whenever they go for the like I said, like the middle tier, like no name guys that not a lot of people know about, they tend to hit like doubles and triples and home runs on those guys, as opposed to the big flashy guys that try to hit home runs with them, and they end up just being like phasing out and not being really productive.
That's a great way of putting it, Hall. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. So let's go on for our first time this year. Let's do story time. We've kind of flirted it out there, but if anything has funny happened to you recently, I'll start this off just because I didn't tell you guys about it last week, but I was able to golf on Father's Day, and this 9-hole executive course, which means that it's nothing bigger than a par 3. So there's no par 4s. You don't need your driver. It's just literally chipping, like 150, 160 yards, right? Just you walk out of your back door and like Reed does, and you just walk onto the golf course. You start playing. So I play the 9 holes, and then I come back, and our house was located on the 5th hole at the tee box of the 5th hole. So I was like, I'm going to play 5 again, just one more time. So I go up and I hit. And I go up to find my ball because one of my balls had rolled over to the right, of course, because they usually do with my terrible swing. And I walked over there, and there was like a bird just sitting on a bush. I didn't know what it was. So I go, and as I'm going to chip, all of a sudden, dude, I hear like right over my head. And I look up, and this bird like flew over my head, turned around, and was like still flapping at me in my face. And I was like, what the heck, dude? What are you doing? So I walked away, and then it flew back to the bush, and then came back after me again. And it was like right above my head. And at that time, I had my club in my hand. I was like, look, man, I do not want to hurt you, but I will. It scared the crap out of me when I heard that bird. But, yep, that was my bird story on the golf course, as terrible as it was. But I figured I'd start off story time for us.
Hey, it's okay. I could probably get a better one here in a second, but it was fun. Nothing too funny has happened lately, my except for, like, you know, those crazy billionaires going down there, but that's not funny. That's more of a tragedy, and I think we should remember it as such. But my coworker, I have a funny coworker who is very unintentionally funny. And the other day I was just standing next to him, and he just leaned up against the desk, and I just see his face start squinting, and I just hear it loud. And it was the wettest fart I've ever heard from a non-fish. I've never heard something so wet. And I just looked at him and I was like, was that real? And he was just like, I didn't know you could hear that. And I was like, I heard it, brother. And that was the funniest thing that's happened in the last few days, I guess. But nothing too funny.
You've heard a fish fart before?
Yeah, no, they're very wet. Yeah, you haven't?
No, I haven't. Paul, you got anything?
I don't know. I was trying to think of something. I don't know.
I didn't think of anything either. Nothing funny happens to me, by the way. I'm just a very boring.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, I live a very boring life now. So
that's why I go to Twitter for all my
stuff,
humor.
I was about to say, yeah, funny stuff happens to you on Twitter.
yeah.
All right, now let's go to our fan questions on the Discord chat. This is from our boy Yam Sensei. Appreciate you, Yammy. He says, I've been thinking, per the comments so far leading up to this season, we are presumed to be a run-first offense. So far, though, in OTAs, it seems like all the attention is on passing, working out the QBs as much as the new defensive players. Is there any smoke to this that perhaps will be more balanced, or are things just plain too early to tell?
Yeah, I think it's just too early to tell. They're just in shorts and like helmets right now and like shoulder pads, I guess maybe. But yeah, I mean, they're not really working on the run game, and I think it's good for Sam Howell. They need him to get as much reps as possible, as many throws in as possible, get as much work in with the receivers, work on timing and whatnot like as possible before you get into training camp. But yeah, I just think that they didn't really work on the run game in OTAs and minicamp just because that's really like a training camp type of thing where they kind of work the running backs into the drills, and when they do 11-on-11s, they'll actually run some running plays because you can actually block and they're going to have full pads on, so you can actually go full force as opposed to guys just being in helmets and shoulder pads and shorts. But yeah, end of the day, as far as the offense goes, you always want to be a balanced offense. Like obviously, it's a heavy passing league, and like people get enamored with obviously the Chiefs, like and Joe Burrow and guys like that just sling the ball over the field. But if you really like go back and like look at, if you really go count like play by play, you'll see that there are also teams that like to run the ball with like Pacheco, where Bieniemy, he's a running backs coach. So and Andy Reid, they base a lot of their stuff off the run. It's just the pass plays are the flashy stuff and get all the attention. And then obviously with Joe Mixon in Cincinnati, they're like a running team as well. Zach Taylor comes from that Shanahan tree and the McVay tree and whatnot. So, end of the day, you always want to be a balanced offense, but I think the new trend in the NFL right now is throw to score, run the ball to win games. So, hopefully, they're going to throw the ball around the field, get up a little bit, and ice the game away with the run game, and the defense can finally play with a lead for once, and maybe get after the quarterback some more.
And this is the beauty about Eric Bieniemy, Yam, in my personal opinion. You love to look at it and say, are they going to be more balanced? But I think it's much more detailed, much more sophisticated than that just simple fact. I think it's all going to be based on the matchup and what is offered there. But I do think that last season they were 12th in rushing yards, 28th in passing yards, and they were one of the worst in pass protection. I think this coaching staff is very smart in the way of saying, without pads on, we have to see how these guys' form is. We got to see how they're being able in these concepts. Are they doing the right depth? Are they blocking with the proper form and technique? And this is a really good way to see it without the shoulder pads on, because maybe you can hide things a little bit more. I think it's genius that they went through that. I don't think it's a tell of balance, so to speak. I just think that they see it as possibly something they need to work a lot on, and they used as much time as they had at their disposal in being able to do that.
Right. Yeah, and not only that, it does. I mean, the running game, passing games are so complicated these days, especially when you have a young quarterback that you're trying to get to learn your system, that when you're wearing shorts, of course, you're going to be throwing the ball a lot more. I mean, passing concepts are a lot more intricate than run concepts when it comes to running backs, especially who've been running basically the same concepts there since middle school. I mean, a lot of it's very easy for them, especially when you're not running some Ravens, Lamar Jackson type offense. I mean, they've been running the ball is so it's pretty self-explanatory at times. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Also, I am home, so I'm going to run in and get set up. It might take me about 10 minutes, but I'm going to do it.
All right, do it, girlfriend. You got it.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah, a great one, by the way. But to add on to Yam's question, it was a two-parter. He said, and to go along with that, let's say they hold true and we go run first, and it works. And Sam goes like 15 of 22 and 200 yards, which is around league average, with one, maybe two touchdowns each week. Even if this leads to a winning record, how will the league and outsiders look at Sam and our offense, would you guess? Especially with all the early disrespect he and the team are getting, Hall.
Um, yeah, I mean, he's putting up 15 for 22 or somewhere around that stat line, a touchdown or two a game, around 200 yards. Um, yeah, if you have a winning record, all you can do is say, hey, he's guiding the team and he's doing what needs to be done to win games. He's not going above and beyond. He's not like, obviously, he's not going to be the reason why, like they're winning games like a Pat Mahomes type thing where he is the sole reason why the offense goes. But, I mean, when you have a young quarterback, I think that's almost – again, people look at guys like Mahomes and Burrow, Herbert when they come into the league, and Lamar Jackson, they just step right in and hit the ground running. But even Brock Purdy. But I think it comes down to Brock Purdy's in the situation where Kyle Shanahan makes the offense so easy, but you also look at everything around him, all the weapons around him. So it also makes him, I'm not going to say look better than he actually is, but it makes a young quarterback feel more comfortable, which builds confidence. And then next thing you know, you can kind of hit the ground running, but in a slower speed than maybe a guy like Herbert or Burrow, those guys like that, just like I said, that hit the ground running. And at the end of the day, that sounds like an Alex Smith stat line. And if you go back to 2018, before he almost died literally on the field, we were 6-4 at the top of the division. And yes, there was complaints about the offense and the quarterback play, but I think that was more due to people thought that Alex Smith was kind of topped out, and that's what Alex Smith was going to be no matter what. I think that if Sam Howell's doing that and we're 6-4 through 10 weeks, I think people will say, okay, this team has potential because Sam Howell hasn't reached his limit yet. He hasn't reached his potential. He's only kind of got his foot in the door and got his foot wet yet. So he can expand, which would expand the offense. So I think that, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Maybe some of the fan base would because it's an offensive league and the offense has been so like bottom tier lately. But I just look at it as I'm not a big quarterbacks wins guy, but I just look at it as if you're winning games, no matter how you're getting it done, it's good with me.
Yeah, I don't care how they look at Sam. I don't care how they look at this offense as long as they're looking at them like winners for winning football games. But that being said, the 15 of 22, 200 yards with one, maybe two touchdowns, that's the Dak Prescott way of controlling an offense and being productive as an offense. It doesn't matter if you get the touchdowns as long as you're running, right, getting those touchdowns.
And they were giving him praise when he was a young quarterback. So
Exactly. And when we all know that when you have a dominant running game like the Cowboys did back then, you're keeping the defense off the field. They're fresh. You're controlling everything. It makes it easier for a young quarterback. And so those numbers would tell me, Yam, that they're doing a very well at controlling the football game. They're doing a very good job of running the football, and they're also doing a good job forcing Sam Howell to be back on the field by forcing punts and getting back on. Now, outsiders most likely are going to look at it in a way of saying, well, look at the situation he was put into, right? Like, oh, he was given these weapons. Like, Yam, you're smart. You already know the moving of the goalposts that generally happens with these sort of things. And it'll change to, oh, it was lucky. You should have beat Arizona. They're a terrible team type stuff.
But I will say there's one caveat with this. Like, if he's putting up that stat line and they're winning games, whatever it may be, cool. Like, again, I have no problem with that because at the end of the day, I just want to win games no matter how it gets done. But I will say, if the offense, I think it depends on how many points they're scoring, because I think that a lot. If I'm like thinking back now, even when like I was looking at it in 2018, my whole thing was they were only averaging like 17, 18 points a game, 20 points a game, whatever it was, and I was just like, you're not going to be able to hold that for the remainder of the season. Like eventually, you gotta start putting up more points. So I think that if the offense is scoring like 17 to 20 points again, like they were last year, I think that's when people will start to be like, But again, it's a young quarterback, so maybe he'll keep growing with the offense week to week. But if he's putting up that stat line, but they're scoring 23 plus points a game, I don't think anybody will have a problem with it because more than likely the offense will be probably league average, which is what honestly we've been asking for the past couple of years.
And I will make the caveat that Sam Howell is probably playing with a better offensive coordinator than Alex Smith had at the time. And I'll also make the comment that the defense is leaps and bounds better than it was back in 2018. No disrespect to the boys that were on the defense then, but they were not the same players then as they are right now. I think we can all agree on that. Now, the great question, Yam, is very thought-provoking. This next question is from our boy, Mr. Tim Towner in the Discord. His question is, Hall, you have $100 in chips. How much would you bet that Washington goes from worst to first in the NFC East?
Well, I'm a betting man, and the odds on that are probably going to be ridiculously crazy. So I'd probably just put the whole 100 on there, just because if they do go worst to first, I'm gonna get a nice payout and I'll be sized. But if I'm actually being like a smart bettor and like trying to like save my chips, worst to first, I'd put 20 on it, 20 chips on it, just because there's a little. I'm not gonna lie, there's a low probability of us going from worst to first, just because if you look at everyone's rosters in the division, you could say they're better than ours, maybe the Giants with the exception. But I'll just put the 20 on it, because if you look all the way back to 2003 or 2004, whatever it is, there hasn't been a repeat champion in the NFC East since then. So by that default and by that history, the Eagles aren't going to win next year. A lot of people think that the Giants were kind of fool's gold unless Daniel Jones maybe takes another step, but their weapons are still doo-doo. So we'll see what happens with that. And obviously you have the Cowboys. So the Cowboys can be up one year, down the next year. So I'm not going to say there's no path, because, there's a path, but there's a couple branches on it. You might just sweep a couple branches out the way, move a couple tree trunks to get there. But there's a small path to get there.
Yeah, I love this question, Tim, because obviously it'd be easy to answer. But I'm going to play Gold Jack here, and I'm putting 100 on 14 on Mr. Sam Howell. I'm putting that 100 on there. First step, the Eagles coaching staff and their offensive coordinators got taken away. They've been dismantled. They've had to pay their quarterback, and yes, they had multiple first-round picks. What did Jordan Davis do last season? What did Nakobe Dean do last season? Looks like they're going to be getting playing time this coming up year. Now, let's look up north. Let's go to the Giants. The Giants just paid their quarterback. Looks like Saquon Barkley is getting his money. And then their wide receiving core, they did add with like Jalen Hyatt and others. And they have some quality pieces there on the offensive line and defensive line. They're very good. But the fact is, can Brian Daboll continue to bloom what has already been grown for him? And can he supplement that? I'd like to see him do it 2 years in a row. It's difficult to do in the NFCs. Then the Cowboys, there's nothing else I need to be said here. They let go of Ezekiel Elliott, which they should have done 2 or 3 years ago. But regardless, that is a capable football team, but I'm not scared of them. Sam Howell went up against their best. They brought it, and Washington beat them. And Sam Howell threw a pick, and they still won. And this defense showed out. So if I'm going to put money on it, I'll put all 100 on 14 on Sam Howell for us to be able to lead us to being lead in the NFC East, because there's nothing else I'd love to see more. After all the trash talking, after all the piling of all these lists, I would love for us to be able to shove it in their mouth. Now, this next question from Tim Towner. Hall, do you think Washington will keep a third quarterback on the 53-man roster to be used as an emergency quarterback on game day?
No. I think whoever the third quarterback is will be on the practice squad. He's not going to dress for game days, but yeah, they'll definitely keep 3. But
didn't they just change the rule so where you can have?
Oh, that's right, because of last year with San Francisco.
Right,
did that get passed though? I can't remember.
I don't remember either. Probably terrible that neither one of us know this by now. But
I think it did get passed, but yeah. So I mean, I guess technically you can have like 54 players on your active game day roster now, as long as the 54th person is like the quarterback. So with that, if that rule did pass and then that is like the thing now, then yes, I do think that Jake Fromm or whoever beats him out in training camp for the third quarterback position will be that guy. But if there's not, then I think he'll just be a practice squad guy that doesn't dress.
Yeah, I think Demorat could be another name to eye there just in case.
That's why I was saying I couldn't think of everybody that was like going to be battling as far as quarterbacks, but I knew there was like 1 or 2 other guys.
Hey, you never know when Andrew Luck, will give us a call. We can't answer that phone call, by the way. We can't answer it.
That's true.
We can't answer it. Now, it's a great one. I do think so. I do think they'll keep the the quarterback on the 53-man roster just as an emergency quarterback, because just look at the quarterback position, what has happened here over the past couple of years. There's been multiple injuries to multiple of these guys. Can you really mortgage only 2 for the whole season? I'm not sure if we can bank on that in Washington. Did we fix the injury concerns offensively? Because they have hampered us in our backside for a long, long time. Next question from Tim Hall. Do you think that Jack Del Rio can get Cody Barton up to speed before the season starts? Or will he be a liability? Meaning we'll see more of Mayo or Khalil Hudson.
No, I think he'll be up to speed. I think that Barton seems like a guy that was obviously he was a special teams guy and then busted out in his 3rd year. And I think that comes with preparation and like knowing your assignments and eventually just getting more comfortable to being a full-time NFL linebacker. So obviously it's a new scheme, but I think that, yeah, if he just plays freely and with that defensive line in front of him, hopefully eating up some blocks for him, I think it'll give him some confidence as training camp goes forward and into the season that he'll start to play freely and hopefully build on his 3rd season from last year.
Yep, and this question was from Tim Towner Reed. Do you think that Jack Del Rio can get Cody Barton up to speed before the season starts? Or will he be a liability, meaning we'll see more of Mayo and Hudson?
So I don't think he'll be quite that bad. I do think he'll play about average for a starter, but I've been wrong about Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera getting linebackers up to speed fast before. You know, you would think that those two, being as successful as they have been in the NFL, being former linebackers, that they would be pretty good at this. But who knows? I mean, maybe somebody like Jamin just took him a minute because he was so raw. But I have faith that he'll be about an average starter, probably about where Cole was. Hopefully, maybe, who knows, though? Maybe he'll fit the defense better and maybe he'll do better. But I'm about as confident as, you could be, I guess, with people who've struck out a bunch of times every time they've been up to bat.
Yeah.
If you look at Jamin Davis, also, my bad. If you look at like Barton, like obviously Jamin Davis has been playing since his rookie year, but a guy like Barton finally snapped and got his 3rd year.
That's
so
true.
maybe they're looking at Jamin Davis like, hey, Barton it finally clicked for Barton in his 3rd year,
Right.
and Jamin Davis is way more athletic, kind of like freak of nature type of guy than he is. So hopefully, it kind of clicks for Jamin.
Yeah, and I know that Cody Barton had said that he signed here to be the green dot wearer. And so there's a lot of expectations to come with that. You have to know the defense. I don't think it's up to Jack Del Rio to get him up to speed. I think it's Cody Barton's job to get himself up to speed. It's his job to show the coaching staff that he's worthy of wearing that green dot. The last thing I want to hear is somebody like Cody Barton, who doesn't come from a pedigree of consistency and excellence, to come here and say, I'm good enough to call plays for your defense. Like, hell you are. You got to show it to me first, dude. And that's
true.
what my line of thinking is here. I don't want you to come in because that's what the old days of Washington would do. We would sign guys to replace the guys who have been working hard here, and it kind of creates a bad culture. I don't expect that. But I do expect Cody Barton to have to earn the ability to come in and wear the green dot and to call plays here. And hopefully he's up to speed and going fast.
Yeah, you're right. If he was younger, if he was like just coming out in the draft or something, then yeah, I think you're right. He would.
Also,
it is up to him.
And you look at the deal that he took, he said he had other offers, like multi-year deals to go other places. He just wanted to come here for a 1-year deal because of the fit, and he thinks that he can be that guy for this team and then get himself a bigger payday next year. So, I mean, he seems like he has confidence in himself, so that kind of tells me all I need to know going forward, honestly.
Yeah. He better come with it. Now, this next question is from Twitter. Our boy King Commando, Proud Papa. His question is, will Jamin Davis take the next step, Reed?
I think he will. I think you look at Jamin so far, he's improved himself the last, obviously from his rookie year. People want to jump up down Jamin's throat like Kyle does on the weekends, but Jamin improved a good amount in his 2nd year. Jamin he was playing a lot more free. It seemed like it was clicking more. You saw him blow up screens. You saw him get into the backfield a lot more. I mean, that play against, was it Detroit where he shot into the backfield no, it was against Indy. He shot back there and tackled Jonathan Taylor for a loss. You're seeing it. He's right there. He's on the cusp, and he's too talented not to. As long as it's all mental for him, and as long as he seems to be clicking, he seems like a good kid. I think he's got his head on straight. So I do think, I think you can expect a decent jump from Jamin this year. I hope so, at least. If not this year, then for sure year 4. I would imagine that he'll take a pretty big leap.
Yeah, and I think I saw on Twitter something Jack Del Rio had a quote say they're expecting Jamin in his third year to be an elite linebacker, to be one of the best. This is his third year. This is the time to do it based on what they have seen. I do expect Jamin to take the next step. I think coming into this situation, seeing Cole leave is a huge mark to Jamin to say, you have to stay on the field, you have to be productive, and you have to be the leader that we want you to, because we just signed a guy who says he wants the green dot. This is your chance. This is your ability to really win this job and solidify yourself as the Mike linebacker on this football team. So, yeah, I do expect Jamin to take the next step.
Yeah, I think if he can stay healthy, well, get on the field and then stay on the field and be healthy, then I do think that kind of like I was just talking about and like Sam was talking about earlier, where his rookie year he was doing a lot of thinking, which was making him a step or two slower or behind the play, and he was getting washed down and kind of just getting phased out of plays. You saw last year that he was more or less thinking and more reaction, more do. So you would think that hopefully, kind of like Cody Barton, a guy in year 3 that's finally all kind of clicks, and you finally kind of know how to play the linebacker position at an NFL level. And then, like I said, no more thinking. It's all reaction, more just snap and go. So, yeah, I do think he takes that step, but got to get on the field and got to stay healthy.
Yep. On top of that, just being able to see like Deron Payne and John Allen and Terry and these guys getting taken care of, knowing that if you, as long as you do your job and you do a good job, we're going to take care of you. You're going to be one of the better paid players at your position. That's got to be such good motivation for some of these young guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, this next question is from RJ. What do you have against Skechers? Okay. Look, man, I just made a joke earlier in the day saying somebody was shaking in their Skechers, okay? It wasn't a slight against Skechers, all right? I've never had a pair of
Because Tony
Skechers.
Romo endorses them.
Oh, yeah. Does he wear Skechers?
Yeah. He wears the shape-ups, too.
Does he? Makes sense.
Probably. I don't know.
He was a cowboy. But I don't have anything against Skechers. You know, you can wear whatever the heck you want. You know, I was just trying to be funny. You know, either you found it funny or you didn't.
I will say, I don't even want to get involved online because it's crazy.
Why are you assuming his shoes, dog? Why are you assuming his shoes? Damn.
That is a funny thing to say, that somebody's shaking in their Skechers. No matter what, no matter the context, that is always funny. So good for you. I laughed when you told me that. Or when I read that.
Now, Scott Hartley's next question on Twitter. Oi! Thank you, RJ. Scott Hartley asks, with fantasy season round the corner, let's imagine a content creator draft. Who is your number 1 overall pick, Hall, and why? Also, who is Mr. Irrelevant? It's kind of mean.
Yeah, Jesus put us on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably going to draft myself because I'm the shit.
There you go, yeah.
Okay, well, you're not allowed to do that. Can you just pick somebody?
I don't know, man.
Don't hurt feelings, Hall. Don't hurt nobody's feelings.
Big Doug. I think I'll pick Big Doug. I draft Big Doug.
Good job.
I was going to draft Big Doug.
Yeah.
For me, I'll pick Steve Lim. He'll be my number 1 overall draft pick. I really link up well with Steve. I really like who he is as a person, as a man. I think that he would be quality of our number 1 overall pick, 10th Mountain Division. Obviously, somebody that's very motivated, determined, and consistent. So if I'm going to have a number 1 draft pick, it would be Steve Lim.
Hey, I'm going to keep it right there with you, Scott, in the UK. And I'm going to draft Andy Burrows, you know. The guy just because, first of all, love the voice, love the way he talks. It's funny, always funny. And
bollocks.
The wrestling pod, dude. You know, he can offer more more to us than just football. You know?
There you go.
Position flex. There you go. Position flex.
Flexibility.
Rivera would draft Andy in a heartbeat.
Now, who would I pick last?
Yeah, who is Mr. Irrelevant?
Now, I originally, if it's just content creators, I mean, do bloggers for Hogshaven count as content creators? Because we know where I'm going with that last. But if not, I'm gonna take Scott. I'm gonna go full UK. I'm not gonna take you, but I'm gonna take your partner out there. Okay? Your partner. I'm gonna take your partner.
Oh, that's so mean. And that's messed up. You should not have picked Andy for that. There is no Mr. Irrelevant. I'd rather just trade that pick away, Scott.
I said it.
I'm gonna say Mr. Irrelevant is Daniel Kelly, but not because he's a draftable player, because he's not. He's an undraftable player. I just want to call him irrelevant.
He's a scout though. Remember, he's an NFL scout. So
he raps on TikTok. He makes content.
Yeah. Well, no, I would probably take him to be my scout, in which case I'd get slapped for that last pick. And honestly, I would probably take Andy L and Scott Hartley as a package deal second or first. Tie them all, put all you K boys together, put them in a package, give me them all in one pick because they're all three are fantastic at their jobs.
And I've been saying this for a while. The content creators from Washington are one of a kind. It's littered with just great individuals that work hard and really enjoy what they do. And it's hard to do some of these things because I feel like everyone does something their own way, and that's the beauty of Washington content creators. And so, I don't want to pick a mystery relevant because everyone works hard. We all care about this, and we love this. I don't want to say that somebody is mystery relevant.
Totally.
Because, you know what I mean? But I a lot of respect. I would have picked Andy Burroughs, but I feel like it's too easy. Because Andy's my boy, and so I just didn't want to go the easy.
It is tough because I mean, you got like Freddie, Jesse, John. I mean, Keith, Rio, all these guys. Everybody's so good at what they do. It's tough, man.
It is. Now
I didn't even know a quarter of the guys.
Right. And now this next question is from DLax21 on Twitter. He asks, Hall, will FedEx Field sell out week 1? And what are some of the best FedEx Field atmospheres over the past 20 years, i.e. the 2005 home game versus Dallas, 2012 NFC East clinching game versus Dallas? This is a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Sellout, I would say no because I don't expect a sellout because if you're on Twitter, you're already seeing people move the goalposts. Everybody was already talking about, I'm not supporting the team till Dan sells. Now you're seeing little pockets and factions of people. Well, I'm not doing it until they change the name. I can't support the name, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to say it's going to be a sellout because it's going to take some time to build up to be a sellout, but I do think it'll be a very, very, very nice turnout, probably one of the best turnouts in many, many years. And as far as best atmospheres,
it has to be that Packers game that you were at.
Yeah, I would say the Sunday night game, the when Kirk Cousins just exploded all over the Cheeseheads, went for I think it was five touchdowns. I think it was.
Poor Cheese.
I know, poor Cheese, right? They had Fat Rob had 2 or 3 touchdowns that game. I was there with 2 Packers fans, just yelling in their faces, having a great time while they sat there with the stale, salty face. And I was yelling at other Packers fans that are leaving early because, I mean, let's be honest, there's been a lot of games as us fans where we're leaving the stadium early. So it felt good to be yelling at another player or another fan base while drunk as hell, while winning a game. Yeah, having a good old time. So, yeah, that was definitely a good time and a good atmosphere that I was at.
Will FedEx Field sell out week 1? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even sure if Ed Sheeran sold out FedEx Field for his concert. So I'm going to hold back on saying them selling out week 1. I am very hopeful that we sell out week 1. We're going to be in section 305 with the UK boys, with Andy, with Scott, with Lockhart. We're going to be there enjoying the game. I hope everyone else is there with us. I don't want to see any Arizona Cardinals jerseys. I want it to be full of Commanders fans just excited to see this team win. That being said, what is some of the best atmospheres? I'm going to do a cop-out here, and I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills after Sean Taylor's passing. That was kind of a different atmosphere just in the love of the expression of everything that went on. And then the season that followed that, I think that kind of just showed what Washington is all about. Because we could talk about the best of times here, but I think what really identifies Washington is the low, low, low times. And that was one of those times where you kind of just saw how important these players, this team is to people. And I think that game in particular was very good at identifying that reality.
Right. So can they sell week 1? Will they? I'm going to go with yes, but are they going to be able to keep it up all year? That's going to, because people are such fair weather fans when it comes to this. And hey, I'm guilty of it too, guys. It's okay. It's all good. But the best atmosphere at FedEx that I have ever been to. I wish I could remember the year.
It doesn't have to be where you were at. It could be.
I'm just going to use one because I think you guys use good ones. But it was mid 2000s when we faced the Rams. I remember I was there, and all they talked about on the radio is they're like, that was far and away the loudest I've ever heard FedEx Field. They're like, I didn't know FedEx Field could get that loud, and it was so that was cool. That was cool to be a part of. But I don't even remember. I was in middle school or something. I don't remember. One of the best. I got a lot of memories, so I make room, get away with the small ones, make rooms for the important ones.
Yeah,
I will say the best one that I wasn't there at was, I got to say, obviously the 2012 last game of the season, beating Dallas for the division championship. I still remember where I was at. I was at Kelsey Kramer's house when Gavin was dating her. We were all over there drinking, watching the game. We were going nuts.
Kelsey Grammer. Cheers.
No. Yeah. But nah, even like to this day, when I see like videos, I still get like chills. I'm like, damn, man, like thought we were going places after that season, man.
Yeah, and D-Lax, this is a great question, brother. I will say the one game, the best atmosphere of game that I was at personally was my first date with my wife, the 2012 Ravens game. Unfortunately, RG3 did get injured that game.
It's your fault.
But you have to remember that Baltimore's just up the road, and we are so used to those guys just taking over our stadium. In 2012, that wasn't the case. We were running back. We were coming back, and the stadium was filled with Washington fans. One of the best atmospheres when Kirk Cousins goes in for that 2-point conversion, the place was loud as heck. I'll never forget that. So for me, it's that 2012 game that I was at personally, visualized and saw. Last question from Andy Burrows. Who's winning at golf? Now, Hawley, you're coming with us. Going with Tim Meek, Jesse Martin. We got Andy Burrows going.
Well, I'm going to say it's not going to be me, but I will say probably Kyle, only because only person I've seen play golf is Kyle out of that group. And Kyle's not that bad, so
I'm pretty
I'll
bad,
say
bro.
Kyle.
No, nobody's going to win. I'm not going to win. I'm not interested in winning. I'm just interested in coming out and
That
hitting
is
some golf balls with
such
my
a
boys.
beta answer.
Sorry,
you
man.
Want to win, dude.
I don't know why
wanna
people
win.
want to be so competitive with golf. I'm just trying to beat myself. I'm just trying to be better.
Because Kyle, this isn't just golf. This is versus the UK. This is a battle of countries, dude.
All right.
Gotta beat them. I'm gonna say that you guys are gonna win golf. I'm not probably gonna golf because I'm only 35. I'm not that old. I'm 33. I mean, why did I say I was 35? I'm 33. Not that old. Not old enough to play golf yet. But I will say that the Americans will take the golf. The Brits will take the drinking because those boys I'm very concerned about them. They seem like they have a lot of alcohol problems, and I think that they need help. Honestly.
You're stupid. It's a great question, Andy. I'm really excited to link up with you guys when you come here. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, everybody. Thank you for so much for tuning into this episode. If you've made it this far, you are a champion. Thank you to Sam Fortier from the Washington Post for stopping by and giving us some insight. I'm happy to be back from vacation, back to normal, no hiccups with Wi-Fi, back to hardwire in, and I'm excited about it. But we'll see you guys again on Thursday. It's a beautiful start to the summer. I'm Kyle.
I am Hall.
And I'm Daniel Kelly. So, Hall, thank you for drafting me. I'm super pumped about that. I'm a nice guy.
You've already been cut.
Yeah.
All right,
Aaron Hernandez
everybody.
didn't do anything wrong.
We'll see you on Thursday. We
preach the Bible.
Anytime you guys comment, we'd love to see you guys. We want to hear more from you. If you have a question for the next show, make sure you comment on it. Just say Q for the pod right before. So that way I'll take a screenshot of it. I'll keep it with me for the next episode. We want to hear from you guys. And it's hard for us because if you see it in the live chat replay, those live comments, we cannot see that while we're recording. It's only post-recording. So if you send us questions in there that you want us to answer on the next podcast, just say it in there, and I'll, without a doubt, I'll write it down for you, and I have it in the next show.
It onto the
I really
YouTube
do.
comments.
We really do appreciate you guys. You guys make this a lot of fun for us.
A good way to get attention is to send Kyle a shirtless picture of yourself. That's usually what everybody's done so far. So,
dude, why the bear hunting thing? Did you really have to comment that on Andy's post? I mean, I was enjoying vacation. I was like, bear hunting? What are you talking about? I had to explain it to Catherine. She was like, bear hunting? What does that even mean? Why is that picture up there?
And you were like, it's Pride Month, Catherine. Wait until I tell you about this.
I had to explain it to her. She was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, that's what you do, though. You do like doing that.
All right, everybody.
Dude, that's you.
We'll see you on Thursday, everybody. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.